We have heard a very thought-provoking talk on popular politics in Assam, and Sanjay has kindly agreed to answer questions and give responses, so please feel free to raise questions or introduce yourself while raising.
I must say, I'm always very nervous. I can't speak for more than 5 minutes.
I normally created a record for yourself.
Yes, I created a record for myself.
So, who is going to, please?
Malu Banerjee, I am a journalist. I have some experience in working in Assam. We have seen lately, Akhil Gogoi has managed to, large crowds in these rallies in Assam. So, could you please say something about Akhil Gogoi's, he was with Santosh Rana, possibly, now he is with Amka. What is his background and how is he managing to, what is the background, what is the social background of the peasants who are coming, what is the, throw some light on Akhil Gogoi, please.
Situations, and first of all, I'd like to thank sir. It's always very nice listening to you. Your narrations always, it takes you into a journey of questions. And I'm not a very good student, and I always have not been very popular with my teachers because I have too many questions. The first question that comes to my mind is, in your entire discourse that we have heard now, in one point you said people of Assam. In this idea of people of Assam, who are included over time and who are excluded? One. The next question that I would like to have is, I'm not questioning on the issue of the idea of the popular. I'm taking it to be as, the popular as meaning the visible and the audible. In one of your sayings, you said that the plowman owns the soil. What comes to my mind very strongly is when the plowman is kept into the picture as a peasant, or where do you, locate the grazers? And why is it that the grazers have not been kept into the idea of the popular movement in terms of resistance? Was there a colonial hangover, or was there a very directed approach to that? The next is, you mentioned in your narration that the whole idea of the national and the national economies being projected in terms of having a localized market. In these localized markets across Northeast, that is ranging from Assam to Mizoram, is any item which is local in the audience. It's always kept as a very highly priced item. Like, in Mizoram, I can date it to 2000s. A piece of egg would be like 15 rupees if it is local, whereas if it is from outside the state, it could be 7 rupees, etc. So vegetable prices which are local would be more expensive. Why is it that even though they are more expensive, the local audience or the peasants or people who are participating in the popular would go for that economic item to show their national solidarity? Third is, one person, just one person, just one more.
You already raised 3 questions.
Just one more, sir. I've got 5, I'll just raise one more. Yeah. In your idea, you mentioned that, the national narrative of the popular is projecting the Assamese, peasants or, as the hardworking. Doesn't it go very strongly against what is projected by the colonial idea of the Lahi citizens? Thank you.
Anyone else? But only one question at a time. I was not aware.
Presentation about the nuances of the long today Assamese history. So, if you reflect a little more on the, you are trying to explore that how to connect the language of the human rights movement with the other movement that you talked about, the peasant movement. Do you find any tension? Can the human rights movement regarding the language? How to connect? Are you thinking in terms of the composite language, or do you find tensions in connecting?
Question, if he could just make some observations on the turn to Hindutva. He talked about the other and the politics of the other and victimhood, and then now the turn to Hindutva.
Thank you, together. Okim's background isn't very left. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Okim's politics is very left student. He's a left student leader, very leftist student leader. Grew up being mentored by the likes of Dhiren Kohai. Very close to Communist parties, not the official, not the Social Democratic Communist parties, obviously. And then in the early 2000s, he was involved in seeking land rights for farmers who had been, some who had been evicted, some who had been forced to leave because of erosion and other things, and some just generally who were cultivating for generations without any tenurial rights. So he was doing the kind of old-fashioned give land back to the tiller kind of thing. And it's very surprising because it's this blanket idea he just wants to insist upon, that the farmer someone needs to speak for the farmer, regardless of what language or religion that farmer speaks or follows. So in that sense, he's quite an interesting figure. He's in jail now. He's been arrested under NIA. He's been in jail so far, and we've all been very worried. We're spending a lot of our time and money trying to figure out how to get him out of jail. But he's also a very dangerous figure for the authorities. Clearly, once you've managed to pacify insurgents, once you've managed to pacify everybody who's going to cause trouble, and once you've managed to pacify those who are actually very big on identity politics by promising some autonomous council or another, it's difficult to contain a fellow like Okhil, who's saying that, but there are certain people you cannot pacify, and these are peasants. And so it's very interesting. And so, also when you say that, when you ask me about Hindutva politics, it's telling that my student Abdul, who I met yesterday, and they're saying, what are you going to speak about? And then he told me, please mention that Bhashani is from, the word Bhashani comes from Dhubri, and he said, there's a sword there called Bhashani. I said, I shall. So Abdul represent. Abdul said, look, the problem now, he said, I'm very worried. So Abdul and I, who's my student, we have lots of disagreements about politics. He believes that leaders are needed. I believe leaders are not. And he says that with Okhil in jail, things are going to look a little difficult now because Abdul says that there are too many people with skull caps and beards who are appearing in KMSS rallies. And he said this is going to go against a kind of peasant nationalist mobilization that Abdul favors. I'm not convinced by his argument, but he was saying that look, you have to think about this. You need to figure out. And so he's been. It's very interesting because people like Abdul are also in the forefront of having libraries, and he works for the KMSS as well in the sword areas which they name after Bharat Kumar Das or after Tiger Siddiqui, Babak Siddiqui, Babak Hazarika. So they have a very different political project in which they find it very difficult to give any space to that kind of identity politics, which is very visible. And unfortunately in Assam today, with the BJP in parts, I think they have moved the goalposts so far to the right. It's going to be a while since we can bring it back to the center again. Urup's question about the human rights movement and is there a tension in connecting? Yes, there was. I think there was a lot of tension in that. In a sense, I feel the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and that universalist language had to really make sense to people who were so angry and so defeated that the tension always was, and I remember it very poignantly, that the difficulty was to ask our comrades and our activists to stay on with us when we knew that they wanted to join some other armed organization. And the the heartbreaking tragedy was when they would come and write a letter of resignation saying that we have resigned from your organization. And you know that the next day they were going to join one of the army groups. How do you get them to stay on with you? What is it in this human rights movement that will allow them to make sense of the future? So I have no answers to that. I think there were tensions, definitely there were real tensions for us. And in the end, we also had to then move. Instead of talking about Universal Declaration of Human Rights, we had to move to say things like, let's become the peace constituency. Let's become, the human rights movement has to talk about peace in Assam. Let's bring Alpha and the government to talks. When they did come to talks, we were the first ones to be kicked out of the thing, but I think we did our job. Many questions that Anup had asked. Why are the very good question about why the graziers are excluded. I haven't thought about it, but it's really very interesting. How would this whole thing look from, let's say, the point of view of the Nepali-speaking people of Assam, who were really the graziers in North Bank and other places? I haven't really thought about this, and it will force me to think more. Because graziers, in the other sense, graziers are always seen as interlopers. Right? People who come in because somebody else, because let's say a more legitimate person has been kicked out. But again, the tensions with Nepali-speaking people are a very different order of tensions than they are from, let's say, the Bhatiyali peasant. So I need to think about that. Thank you so much. What happened there? I think about. Why the plowman owes land? So why are people excluded and included? Again, it's also how easy it is to, let's say, co-opt a particular kind of politics, a particular kind of identity politics, right? So in that sense, everybody in Assam you can think of now, every person you can think of now, actually can legitimately lay claim to an autonomous council, except the Bhatiyali-speaking peasant, right, and the Adivasi, the plantation. And these are the two biggest constituencies, in terms of people who will never be allowed an autonomous council. Okay. So it's easier for us to incorporate the kind of autonomy politics based on identity. Localized markets, maybe because I don't have an answer to that, my brother. Maybe it's because local things taste better. I don't know. The Assamese peasant is hardworking, yes, as opposed to the colonial idea of, we never really believed them when they said, when the colonial, archivers said that we were lazy. We never believed them. We thought we were not lazy, but very hardworking, yeah.
So very insightful responses. So we shall have one more round of, we have little time. So we shall have one more round of questions and responses.
And back to the place, what I have noticed particularly in
Microphone, please.
in areas around Guwahati, with the frenetic pace of construction, which is expansion of the Guwahati city, a lot of agricultural land is getting absorbed, and lots of displacements are taking place, especially possibly in the airport area. I have seen in the Rabha areas. There's a lot of reason behind why these Rabhas were elevated. So it seems that this problem is going to accelerate, intensify in the coming days. And secondly, on the issue of grazing, I want to ask you one thing, that Bodo areas, I have noticed that, you see, there were grazing grounds along with these tribal area, villages, which were possibly occupied by the immigrants, and they settled down. So these grazing grounds have been lost. So whether these graziers as a class are now vanishing in Assam.
I have two related questions. One is, what is the... I have two related questions. The first is, where does the Alpha stand at this present moment, with one faction going for talks and the other still carrying arms? Where does it actually stand? First. Second question, is there a definite and identifiable Marxist component in Alpha's doctrine and philosophy?
Now you are Any other question? Our friends from the Northeast, they have to also add inputs to.
Small splinter militant groups in the Northeast. Is there any unified coordination between them, any single strand that holds them together, or each are like a loose cannon? One doesn't know what the other is doing, and there's no link between the say 30-40 militant groups, small. Second point is there any evidence of any coordination with the militant groups in Kashmir, Jammu and Kashmir, and the Maoist groups of Chhattisgarh, etc., with these groups? Or are they completely, absolutely autonomous and separate from them? The Maoists in Central India, then Jammu and Kashmir, that kind of group, and these Northeast groups, are they completely separate, or is there any coordination, any links between them? And the last one is there any link with the foreign terrorist groups? That means the IS or the Taliban or any other group like that.
Okay. Now the friends from the North.
I wanted to connect what Anup said about the hard bazaars and why local produce are so expensive. And I think that's an issue that you can bring it up more in your paper, because as an anthropologist who looks at food and arts in the region, the counter question that I have for you, I think in relation to Sanjay's talk in terms of peasants, students, insurgents, and popular movements, you can also think about how much people who come to the market bargain with the traders, with the local traders. I have worked with them for the last 6-7 years. You go to any hut, a local egg that you say is 15 rupees, it's never sold for 15 rupees, it's sold for 5 rupees, because the bargaining power and the aggression of the customers are so high. So I can really relate to that. The produce that comes from outside, you say 7 rupees, you never bargain for that, you pay 7, but for local you want to pay 5. Right. So in a sense, I think in the Brahmaputra Valley as well, in your paper you can bring out some of the the politics and the demand supply that goes on in the valley. It will be quite helpful.
Protocols supply driven by street.
What is the real picture? Can we really identify this movement of the insurgents, of the radicalists? Do they really hold that popular tone anymore, or they are alienated from the mainstream?
I think, is there any other very left, irrepressible, absolutely essential, cannot wait anymore because Sanjay will not give any lecture tomorrow. So that is the last chance. So,
What is happening with the underground groups that have taken arms? Well, like I said in my talk, I think there is a section of the armed groups which exist, which are not talking to the government, who exist as very militarized cells in the hills, who have very little to do with what's happening in civil society, the everyday concerns of people and all of that. So that is, and when you have these militarized cells, it's very difficult to ask how popular are they. And popularity really comes from, and I know so many young people in Upper Assam still join Alpha, not because they feel a ideological affinity to Alpha, but because it's one way to get rid of, to address the humiliation that they feel every day. So, so I don't know. I really can't, bring myself up to say with any certainty that they are popular or not. Are they Marxists? Clearly not. I think think they would be the first to agree that these are movements of, let's say, how should I say, that you make it up as you go along. You make it up as you go along, you need volunteers, and I'm not saying that therefore that they don't read Marx at all, they do. Just in the way that the IRA actually was very, IRA did read a lot of Marx, and today Sinn Féin is one of the few parties that still holds to its socialist traditions. But it's not as if they would explicitly call themselves Marxists, they wouldn't. Is there any unifying strand? I think the unifying strand that exists for all the splinters that you can think of is the fact that you have something called the Armed Forces Special Powers Act that does not distinguish between your language or the accent or anything like that. So if you have a state which is saying that you are united in our ability to oppress you, then in your disunity also there's going to be some sense that you are one. It's only a matter of time maybe that there's more better coordination amongst us. And again, to come back, to end on a note that I did not really address and Tommy forced me into it, was, look, it costs a lot to produce something in Assam. If you're a farmer, the reason that farm, at least in the Brahmaputra Valley, the farm incomes have not gone up in the last 10 years, not even by 1%. The reason for that is because it's very expensive to be a farmer today, right? It's very expensive to be a farmer. You don't have the rice that you produce. The Food Corporation of India doesn't buy rice from the northeast, doesn't procure our rice because they say that they cannot transport it for long distances. So we don't sell our rice. After a lot of fighting, KMSS, after a lot of fighting, Assam now has 24 different mandis in the Brahmaputra Valley where you can sell your stuff. But it's very difficult for the farmer to go there. The farmer would much rather leave the land to a sharecropper who will come and use whatever pesticide he wants, but the farmer really wants to go somewhere else, right? So in that sense, whatever you can produce, you spend a lot of money in it. So when you are able to take it to a market, the least you want to do is retrieve some of that money that you spend there. Whereas on the other hand, you find that it's so difficult. You know, it's a tragedy how when a lot of NGO type people, when they go to a village for the first time, immediately come up with lots of advice for farmers. Why don't you grow this? Why don't you grow that? And sometimes poor farmers, they do listen to you. So year before last year, what happened was NGOs went to Borpeta district in Assam and asked people, oh, why are you growing rice? Grow potato instead. They grew potato. And then there's a huge potato lobby that all the potatoes come from somewhere else. And so they said, look, you cannot buy local potatoes. So what happened was all the potato rotted. They couldn't sell it because they were hampering. So nobody came to pick up the potatoes from Barbora to Guwahati, right? So if you're a farmer and you don't have these connections, then you're pretty much fighting a losing battle.
On this one, there is something interesting which Dolly or Sanjay, you may reflect on, and I want to hear also on this, which is that if you think of the 80s, see, some of these aspects of what you might call the latest phase in a long continuing agrarian crisis relate to marketing, relate to middlemen, relate to how much money is being put into the market nexus, who are the traders, etc. On whom really part of the fate of the peasants depends. Now, if you look into the 80s and 90s, think of the movements of Sadak Joshi or Mahendra Tikayat. Now, these are forgotten figures today. But they were at one point of time really the harbingers of so-called farmers' populist politics. In Maharashtra, I am reminded of Mahendra Tikayat's this great 7-day Ghirao of Mira, Bagpat, Charan Singh's area, all that. Now, but what has happened today is that unlike in the 80s and early 90s, so-called pre-liberalization era, India witnessed what you might call populist politics around issues of the farmers, not peasants, because peasants' demands are not so much about the commercialization, but much more about the crop, the land, etc. Whereas farmers' demands are classically related to market nexus. And around that, we had a lot of movement either in Maharashtra, in Uttar Pradesh, and the rise of Ajit Singh, son of Charan Singh, was particularly, it drew sustenance from that. On the other hand today, and what Sanjay was speaking, was particularly striking as I was recalling the experiences of Bengal now. We have similar problems in terms of how peasants are continuously being robbed of or deprived of or disabled in terms of drawing the remunerative return. But exactly like in Assam, you will not have any more that kind of movement that you had in the 80s. And I was thinking, why is it the case? One reason maybe, and that's why I want to know, one reason may be that the kind of movement that Akhil Gogoi and others are leading is clearly of a different type. They are, in some sense, they recall the old peasant politics left by the left parties or left political cadres. At another level, we may say that this politics is around, in fact, new issues of encroachment, eviction, etc., etc. But it's not around crops. It is not around, the hold of the sahukars, of the jotdars, of the moneylenders, etc., which were the old classic issues. And we do not have any more popular movement around that. And therefore, one reason may be that, and this is probably what therefore links to the problematic that Sanjay began with, is that what constitutes the popular? What will finally be defined as popular? All issues are there. All issues are relevant to, different sections of society. But not all issues will become popular or will be accepted as popular at a particular point of time. And why is it that the question of remunerative prices of crops, or as this is again something which is happening in West Bengal, like one of the demands of actions of Trinamool was, and supposedly that was in response to popular demand, spread of mandis. And the Trinamool government had promised that it would erect mandis for peasant producers all across West Bengal. It did some, it has not done enough, etc. But you do not see any movement around that. I don't think that it constitutes in some way, therefore, what Sanjay had begun with, that this can be considered as popular when you have certain kinds of contentious politics, certain kinds of networks, etc., etc. So, maybe Sanjay, if you can tell a little about that, why is it that these things are not, you have a different trajectory of the peasant or the farmers movement, and not around issues that particularly Toby raised or, that referred to. No, yeah, a little more. You had spoken and you can speak.
No, partly it has to also do with, partly has to do with the fact that it's become such an unstable category, the peasant. Sorry. It has become such an unstable category, and in the last decade at least, it seemed as though everything was impacting the peasant in almost like it was going to impact the peasant tomorrow. Whether it's the dam or the evictions. The evictions are actually quite new. The evictions are actually post 2015, 2014, 2015. Before that there was the dam. Before that there was this, the idea of a public distribution system gone wrong. Yeah, then there was also the right to information. So I look at the trajectory of an organization like KMSS. I look at Akhil. A lot of people are impatient with Akhil because he's jumping from one issue to another. He's jumping from the dam issue to the other issue, and they want him to be more consistent. They want him to be, like you said, talk about things like the middleman, talk about things like all of this. But in a sense, there's a certain degree of honesty that he has, that you cannot not address these issues. And these issues can only be sustained through bringing on board not more peasants, but let's say middle class people from IIT who are going to tell you that the dam is bad for you. So he will network with them. So what strikes me is that he's remarkably well informed about everything. In terms of he's really well informed. He just has enough information about why there should be no eviction. So he's a good lawyer. So he's like a mix it up bits and pieces man, which is what essentially the peasant also has become. So yeah.
Okay, with this happy note that the peasant is difficult to find out whether the peasant remains a peasant. So with this happy note, today's program concludes. Is there any vote of thanks or anything? Okay, Priya.
On behalf of the graduate research group, let me begin by thanking Dr. Sanjay Barbora, and we thank you to all the members of the audience. Before we break for high tea, let me request all of you to join us tomorrow for the research workshop, which begins at 10 a.m. the same venue. Thank you very much.
Big thanks to Sanjay, very powerful.